listen, you have some beauties and there's some others. What would you say if I told you about one, a study in which this was called the demography of happiness? And in this study, the government found out that young people are happier than old people. And they found out that people that earn more are happier than people that earn less. And they found out that well people are happier than sick people.
That's good.
This was $249,000 to find out it's better to be rich, young, and healthy than old, poor, and sick.
So when you say now that it's the government may be the problem, so what do people do? They have to look to somebody, and you say if they look for themselves, that's it may be good advice. But how about somebody who's on a a Social Security pension or a pension of trying to live on $150 a month? They have to look to somebody, I guess. Yeah. They're saying, hey, we can't make it. We can't afford to go to a doctor.
Well, 62% of the people can't stay home in an election and cure things, as we did in the last election.
I just read this the week I heard this week on the radio. They dropped 300,000 voters from the Los Angeles roll because they didn't take the time to go to the polls in the last election. 300,000.
That's the lowest percentage in history. Only 38% of the people voted in the national election. And this means that people aren't paying any attention to what? Well, here, a poll was taken recently that found out that only 46% of the people in the poll could name their United States congressman. But what was worse, 86% of those who could name him couldn't tell you a single thing that he represented or stood for.
They just knew that he represented
Yeah, he was a congressman, but what's he doing while he's up there? And the same is true at the local levels of government and all the rest. But
so you're saying people really have to take an active interest. You have to have citizen action groups locally and
let them know.
See, the
special interest groups. Now, the special interest groups aren't, as everyone thought, big, powerful business interests or something that are going to persuade government to do things. As a matter of fact, I don't know anyone with less influence today in government than business. They're just a convenient whipping boy. But it's the groups that have got a particular axe to grind. You can't have a power plant because it might interfere with the seagulls. Now, I think I'm an environmentalist. And I do not agree with those people way over the edge who pave the whole country over in the name of progress. But also, I don't like those on the other extreme that won't let you build a house unless it looks like a bird's nest. Someplace in the middle, we got to allow people or ecology too. Well, this kind of group, and they want their particular program. Hundreds of dollars have been added to the cost of an automobile, putting gadgets on it to clear up the air. We're the only country in the world that's set out to do it that way. The automobile industry, over and over again, told the government if they give them more time, the answer lay in making the motor more efficient and making it burn the fuel better. And when they were given the limited time, there was only one thing they could turn to. That was the add-ons that you had.
And the verdict is really kind of still out on those, whether they're going to add more sulfuric acid to the air or not. What do you think is going to happen? Now, you've been asked this question. I'm sure you knew that I might possibly bring it up tonight. There's an election coming up. You're out of politics now, but you were speaking, and as I say, you're going around the country. You envision a possibility, say in '76, if the convention, say, was deadlocked. I'm giving you all the theories and so forth, and the conservatives took over, possibly and got control of the electoral process, and they couldn't quite make a decision. And they came to you and said, Governor Reagan, we can't decide between Mr. Ford and Mr. Rockefeller. We're divided. Would you like to go to the White House?
You remember that answer I gave you about the CIA?
Yeah. I can understand the CIA now, but
no,
I thought that was delicately phrased.
Yes, verbose but delicate.
Yeah, verbose but delicate.
No, I think it's an unanswerable question. I don't think anyone in view of the things that have gone in the last few years knows what's going to happen in the next 2 years down the road. I think that everyone should hope and pray that people there will do the job so well that there won't be any question about it. Because if they do, then everything's all right with the rest of us.
You think they're doing their job well?
Well, I agree with some things and disagree with others. When they give me a choice between a $53 billion deficit in the budget and an $80 billion deficit, Balancing the budget is like protecting
You don't
your
spend
virtue.
more than you take in, right?
It's like protecting your virtue. You have to learn to say no.
There's got to be another way. What's the second option?
Well, no, there's some ways that this could be brought about. First of all, the limitation. Here's another one. Why shouldn't we have, in addition to a simplified income tax, why shouldn't we also have a law that says that any time a legislator or a congressman introduces a spending program, he has to introduce with it a tax program to pay for it? Then let the people find out. There was a woman that, from a financial firm that was back at the President's Economic Council, and her words weren't quoted. Everybody else's words got in the paper, all the Hellers and the Galbraiths and all the so-called economists. And I have a degree in economics, so I can say this. I think an economist is someone who has a Phi Beta Kappa key on one end of his watch chain and no watch on the other. This woman said that you go to the polls and you ask the people that they want some social service, some program that government can give them. The people in the polls are after you and say, that sounds good, yeah. But she says that isn't exactly accurate. She says put a $100 bill in each person's hand and then show them the program and say, now, isn't that a nice program? Do you want it? Give me the $100. And she says, see what the poll says then. How many people hang on to the $100 instead of the program? And those regulations have the force of law. And the difference is when you break the law, you're innocent until proven guilty. When you break a regulation, and the fellow that charges you with breaking the regulation, you're guilty. And if you want to take him to court and prove you're innocent, that's up to you. And all of these are things that yes, we can trim the budget. There's enough fat in the federal government that if you rendered it, you could wash the world.
They took a poll of the American people the past week, and I think 78% or something, around 75% were opposed to more military aid to Vietnam and Cambodia and Southeast Asia in general. And yet the administration was trying to tell the American people that a couple $100 million or $222 million would make some kind of difference, or that the government might make it. And how do you feel? Do you think that that is a lost cause in a way? I think people can see humanitarian for children, hospitals, etc., medical supplies and food. But it seems that the public has just almost had it up with military involvement, where we feel that we are not directly threatened.
Well, we are fed up. We're war weary after a long and badly fought war. On the other hand, and this is one where I'll probably lose a lot of people because it isn't popular publicly to say this today. When we withdrew our troops, we made a ceasefire, a peace agreement, and it was based on supporting the non-communist forces in Indochina. And I think for the United States to break its word, we're in that agreement. We pledged something, and the Congress is now saying that the United States reserves the right to just break its word and not. What are their allies ever going to trust us? Then they're on the edge of Indonesia, 140 million people, which comes within 14 miles of the nearest point of the Philippines. The domino theory is in
That's still a viable theory?
And yes, it is. And I could see the United States one day being very, very lonely. I think the American people, if they really look at all the facts, yes, we want fiscal responsibility. But I think we also want a country that is strong enough at all times that we can say to any adventurous guys over there on the other side of the water, you better look twice, brother, before you start getting rough. And we can take care of ourselves.
As you said, before you made the statement, that would probably get mixed reaction.
And I can understand that. People aren't. And it's hard to understand how maybe your interest is involved 10,000 miles away.
Let me ask you one more question before you go. Let us assume that there's a third party, that neither party seems to go.
Yeah.
You like this approach already, huh? And they're thrown into disarray, as they say, and a third party is formed. Do you think that'll ever happen in this country, where a third party will be a major type of alternate to what we have?
Well, I'd still prefer to see revitalization of the two major parties we have. because the two-party system has served us very well. I was a Democrat most of my life. I became a Republican not too many years ago. And I had the pleasure of telling some of those people that are saying the Republican Party ought to broaden its base the other day that when I switched parties, I didn't do it because the two parties were alike. I did it because they were different. And I think that the two parties ought to stand up as to what they represent, what they stand for. I'd rather devote our effort to see if we can't find out what the present two parties stand for, which one we want.
But you don't see yourself, or do you see yourself as maybe as a part of that active politically again? I certainly don't give up, do I?
Yeah, you sure don't. I wish I could think of a good get-off line.
I have Lawrence Spivak's old questions, you know, for that.
Nancy, you know, said that to say hello tonight, she thought it was great that we're both in town at the same time.
You too. I get that. Thanks for being with us tonight, really. It's a pleasure to see you again.